All right, welcome to our chat about community engagement. For those of you who haven't been before, we have a monthly chat. It's every Friday. We will not have one in November because that will be the Friday of our 10-year anniversary celebration, which is on Friday, November the 27th. It's at 4:30 Pacific time. I'll be sending over the next few weeks many more emails and announcements about that out to the group. We're really excited about that. We already have lots and lots of people who have signed up to attend, and we'll have some great speakers, and should be really fun afternoon / evening / morning, depending on where you may be joining us from. I'm going to just do a little housekeeping here. You're welcome to ask questions at any time, but you may want to mute your microphone as we go along. That's often helpful. You can either interrupt with questions or feel free to type them into the chat box. It's whatever works best for you. These chats are recorded. They're placed on our website and linked to YouTube as well. And if you are interested in viewing this chat again or seeing some old chats, you are welcome to visit our website at friendlywater.org/events. Our new website, I should say, it's still coming together, but we've launched that site, and really excited about being able to evolve that and grow that. Got a lot of new content there. As always, I don't think my name has changed. I'm Will Forrester, and you can always reach me, will@friendlywater.org. The one final housekeeping note, and I'm going to put this into the chat, is we are looking for a handful of very helpful folks to give us a review. We use a website, as many other nonprofits do, greatnonprofits.org, and I'll type that into the chat, so you can just click on it if you like at the end of the chat. This organization essentially it exists to give some standing, and some information about nonprofits. Every year we always try and get 10 folks to give us a review on the site, and we receive accreditation for that. So today's the last day, and we just need a handful more. So if just 4 of you would be willing to do that, that would be fantastic. And I'm going to mention that again at the end of the chat as well. So who are we? Friendly Water for the World creates self-empowering health benefits for all people and communities through water first training and team building projects. This used to be a 5 things about us slide. Now it's a 9 things about us slide. I'm afraid it may be a 20 things about us slide by the end of the year. But this is taken directly from our website, and it's just a great little short list of things that are really important about our organization. I like to focus on the fact that we believe in helping people help themselves, and we build knowledge and resilience through long-term partnerships. I was giving a presentation to Kilowatts for Humanity, which is another nonprofit that does a lot of work in Zambia. Actually, they do a lot of energy work, and we focused a lot on that conversation about partnerships and working with communities, and that's really key to today's conversation about community engagement. So the agenda for today will be Curt, who's going to kick us off on the approach to community engagement. And the design and the thinking that he and the community that he put together to so far create this process. It's definitely something that we're continuing to learn from and learn from communities about. And then Eric to talk about his recent experience in Matsakha. And then we have a great guest, Getry Agizah, who seems like almost everyone on the call knows, and she's from Transforming Communities for Social Change. And hopefully she'll have a few minutes to talk to us about her experiences with this process so far. So I'm gonna stop my sharing and then hand it over to Curt to give us the overview for community engagement. Let me go ahead and mute a couple of these, just getting some background sound there. All right, Kurt, the floor is yours.
Thanks, undecided voter. Yeah, thanks everybody for being able to join us. We're talking about community engagement today. I think before we get to the community engagement, I want to quickly pop up on the screen where that fits in to what we are doing. So you will now see, this is from our website, that community engagement, it's an integral part of our 4-step partnership process. And as we'll talk about here, the process itself is designed very intentionally to be non-colonialist, non-patriarchal, and non-elitist, but instead be collaborative, cooperative, and most importantly, community-driven. And that means not driven by the person who's doing the training, not driven by me, not driven by David, not driven by the board, but driven by the actual community that is receiving the benefit. And the way it is now, it all starts off with the community survey. And the community survey is nothing more than what we would call social mapping. And what it does is it provides Friendly Water with key information, contacts, and some fairly rough demographics. The goal of it is it helps us build connectivity and relationships prior to undergoing the community engagement process. And it also provides us an early assessment, and as I said, a fairly rough assessment of what the WASH challenges, the water, sanitation, and hygiene challenges are. And this is simply background knowledge. The more we know, the better prepared we are when we actually get to meet the community, which is the next step, community engagement. And simply put, for right now, that's it allows us to identify a collectively determined path forward that's premised upon the community desires and the pooled capacities of the combined partnerships. So what we're talking about, the pooled capacities, which is more difficult to say than I thought, is the assets of the community. And how we have assets that we bring, the community has assets that they bring, and when we pool them together, that allows us to then do more than we could do by ourselves. The third part is our technology training and production. This is simply, it's immersive. It's a hands-on education in the fabrication, sustained production, and use and maintenance of our technologies. And this can be done by local contractors in partnership with the community-based organization, in partnership with Friendly Water. It's really two things are going on. People understanding why we are recommending these technologies and how to use them, and then the actual production of them. And that all leads to the fourth thing, which is really the most difficult, which is follow-up and coaching. And this is really becoming a paramount part of our work, because the point of follow-up is to make sure that we're creating a sustainable means of production, distribution, and implementation of any of the technologies that we have trained. We use locally contracted, paid by Friendly Water community members or villagers to provide this work, and they might be working with they might be employees of the local community-based organization, or they might be people who just stood out during the training process and are well connected, people who might be influencers, or people who might have another position within the community that would make them likely to be listened to. these are four things that, or three of these things we hadn't been doing before, and the training we're doing completely differently than we had in the past. All of these things put together, we believe, increases the likelihood of a successful outcome of adoption and implementation. However, there's no way we can say with any honesty that this program will succeed, because that's not up to us. It's not up to the community, and it's not up to the local community-based organization that we partner with. And where that actually happens is it's the combined, complementary, and concerted efforts of all three or four or however many partners we have. This is not an individual enterprise. It's a group enterprise. So, and of course, if you have more partners, let's say you have 8 or 9 partners, each partner is going to bring their own risk with them. So if you have 8 or 9 partners, your risk assessment is now going to go up by 800 or 900%. So you might want to figure out how many partners you actually want. We're finding 2, 3, or 4 partners to be workable, 3 and 4 being ideal. Everything that I've just talked about here is figuring out whether or not we can be complementary and combined and concerted. That's what happens during community engagement. That's the whole point of the community engagement process, is how we activate ourselves and how we activate the community and how we activate the community-based organization in a way that is befitting the dignity of all of us. Done correctly, community engagement, I actually wrote this down, done correctly, community engagement mitigates risk by creating clarity, which means that no question goes unanswered. Accountability, which is that no task goes unassigned. And responsibility, which is everyone gets a job doing something. And that really applies more to day 3, as you'll see here in a few minutes, than anything else. The key themes that you'll hear about over and over again in creating this egalitarian approach is to be appreciative. And that means we are not looking for negativity. Something that's negative might be a challenge, and we can address it as a challenge, but we're not going to address something that's negative simply because we don't want to give it life. We want to be appreciative in everything that we're doing. We want to focus on inquiry. We want to ask questions. As I had said, no question goes unanswered. We want to be asked questions that we had not thought of. And then totality, and this goes back to combining our assets. We all have to be involved in this in our entirety and with sincerity, because together we will make it work. But if it's a 3-legged stool and we only have 2 legs, we're going to fall over. And Lord help us if we only have 1 leg. So how this actually works is, and this is what Eric will get more into, and Getry will also speak to how this actually worked, is we have set up a process which allows us to go to a community, to have been previously partnered with hopefully a community-based organization or an NGO, or simply somebody who has a real strong commitment to that community and the ability to make things happen. And we will partner with that person or this group to hold a series of community talks. And the way we envision it and the way we've currently done it is it's a set of 3 conversations that are held over 3 days, with a day in between each conversation, at least 1 day in between each conversation. And during this period, we suss out what our ability is to be complementary, concerted, and combined, and collaborative, and collective, and other words that apparently begin with C. But in order to work together. And the first day, we try to get as many people from the community as possible that we can fit under a roof. And when we did this recently in Matsakha, that turned out to be about 90 to 100 people. And on that day, we do two things. We discover one another and we dream about our futures. And as I said, this is appreciative. So we want to hear everything good about everybody, everything good about the community. And in that same vein of appreciation, we want to hear those positive dreams, those desires, those things that can overcome challenges. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of conversation, and it's a lot of listening, which is more than anything what we are called there to do, is to listen. And at the end of that day, the facilitators, which will be somebody from Friendly Water, in this case it's been Eric, and a facilitator from our on the ground organization, the CBO, in this case Getry, will get together and they will think about what happened and they will take notes. And then the next day at some point, they will join a conversation with me and we will go over the course of the day's events and what their thoughts were. And the reason this is important is because our community engagement process has just recently been written. And it was written by a white guy from Olympia. You know, and my guess is that that guy doesn't know a lot about what's actually happening in East Africa. And after talking with Getry, I learned that I was right, that I don't know about what's really happening in East Africa. So it's a very iterative process where I am learning because I am being told what is actually happening, and then corrections are made. So the next time we do it, it's a little bit different, and it becomes a little bit more different and a little bit more different. And we change it to be a process that is both appropriate and appreciated where we are using it. So after that, we go to the second day, and I say we, not really meaning me. I wish I could be there, and I hope to be there at some point. But the second day is then we start talking about what those dreams were, and we figure out which ones can be utilized most easily and effectively and put into practice and implemented and adopted, and we design a way to do that. The group from the first day, as I said, somewhere between 90 and 100 people, is cut in half for the next day. So now we're down to 45 people, 40, maybe 50 people. And it's to narrow the focus because we have to start thinking about implementation. And once again, that day finishes and there's a lot of hard work done by the facilitators on the ground. They then have a conversation with me and Wayne and anybody else on our end who wants to be part of that conversation, people who know more than I do, once again, or people who have specializations in various things and want to offer advice are welcome to this conversation. And we narrow down again. And for the third day, we're down to what's called the fourth D, which is deploy. And I don't know if it's actually the best word, but I think it had to begin with D. But what it really means is that you're assigning responsibility, you're assigning tasks, responsibility and accountability is determined, roles are assigned, and then we're done. And that's community engagement, but it doesn't stop because the meeting is over. We are taking all those lessons and then we were applying them constantly. And one of the first things that comes out of this is the community puts together their own organization and they tell us what they want to do and how they want to do it. And anything more about this is really, I think, can be better talked about or discerned rather than hearing about what I wrote, hearing about what actually happened. When our program manager, Eric Lijodi, left his house and was able to travel about 30 kilometers north up to the villages, the sublocation of Matsakha, and meet with our new friend. And actually they have been old friends, but certainly meet with our dear friend Getry Agizah and talk about how we were going to start effective and meaningful work in the Matsakha villages. And at this point, last thing I want to mention, and it's really just to take a look at for a moment, is this is what we always want to avoid when we are doing our work, and this is why we never talk about being finished. We always maintain being appreciative. We try to shun or at least tamp down dominant voices, because everybody's voice needs to be heard, or this can quickly go off the rails. As I said earlier, negatives are good as long as they're not destructive. Make a negative into a challenge. And then very importantly, for some of the things that I said earlier about not being patriarchal or colonial, we do not foster or recognize dependence. We are not there to be a permanent shoulder. We are there to be a hand up. And I think that is an exceptionally difficult job, because you have to be in a position at some point to hand this off. And we find that with the community engagement process, we can make this handoff start at the very beginning of our partnership with the various communities. So with that in mind, I would like to pass the baton to my friend, Eric Lijodi.
Yeah, thank you, Curt, for those very powerful opening remarks on community engagement process. I think it gives us a very clear outline about what the whole community engagement process actually involves. I'll specifically look at the community engagement process that we did in Matsakha. And before I look at the process itself, maybe I want to give just a brief preview of how the Kenyan government is structured. You'll notice that in Kenya, there are actually two levels of government. There is the national government, and the national government directly falls under the office of the president. Then we have 47 county governments, and each county is actually managed by a governor. The roles of both governments are clearly outlined in the Kenyan Constitution, though some of the functions for both county and national government are closely related. Matsakha community is found in Kakamega County. Kakamega County is one of the counties that are actually found in the western region of Kenya. And Kakamega as a county has 12 administrative units known as sub-counties. Matsakha is found in Kakamega North Sub-County, and for administrative purposes, Matsakha is referred to as a sub-location and is managed by an assistant chief who is an appointee of the national government. Matsakha is located on the highway between Kakamega and Webuye, which connects the Great North Super Corridor Highway. To get an overview of the setup of Matsakha sub-location, Friendly Water for the World collaborated with a local NGO that is in operation within and beyond Matsakha in the name of Transforming Community for Social Change, TCSC, to carry out our first community survey in Matsakha. The survey we did in Matsakha entailed a brief on the number of schools that are within Matsakha, the health facilities that are within Matsakha, the road network that is within Matsakha, the sources of water, the sanitation and hygiene procedures that are within this particular community. We looked also at the number of the households so that we get to know the population that is within Matsakha community as a whole, and any other relevant information that could give us a picture of how Matsakha looks like. It is after the community survey that we initiated a community engagement process with the assistance of Transforming Community for Social Change. Our first point of contact in Matsakha was through the area chief, who further referred us to his subordinate, who is the area assistant chief of Matsakha. Matsakha sublocation, we discovered that it comprises of other smaller administrative units known as villages. And each village within Matsakha is actually managed by a village elder. The services of the assistant chief of Matsakha when we entered into Matsakha were very important for us to enable us carry out this community engagement process in Matsakha. It was so important because for us to be introduced to the leaders of the 10 villages that are within Matsakha, we had to be introduced to the 10 village elders by the area assistant chief. The assistant chief has arranged for a session whereby he made sure that we have met all the village elders that were working within Matsakha. The assistant chief also helped us to identify other key leaders that are within Matsakha and also other opinion leaders that are within Matsakha. The village elders on their part, they really helped us also to get in touch with a cross-section of the people we intended actually to attend the community engagement process within Matsakha. As you are aware, we couldn't just take everybody that was within Matsakha to attend this community engagement process. I think I had arrived at a place whereby we had contacted the village elders who were within Matsakha so that they actually get us a cross-section of representatives of people from the 10 villages who are supposed to actually to participate in the community engagement process that we were doing within Matsakha. There are key areas that we need to identify as to why we were actually doing this community engagement process in Matsakha. And some of them Kata has actually outlined them out. But if I may mention some of them, one thing that we were doing in Matsakha during this particular community engagement process, one was actually to introduce ourselves as Friendly Water to the community of Matsakha. You'll find that what we found out from the people of Matsakha, what they were telling us clearly was that they have seen actually projects actually coming up in Matsakha community, but most projects, people have not taken time to introduce themselves within the community. They just wake up one morning and they see there's a program going on without actually the community being involved in any process. So one of the steps that lead us to community engagement is to enable us actually to identify ourselves with the people of Matsakha, to get to know them and they get to know us. And then number two, while doing this community engagement process, we get to understand the assets that the community is having, because we know the assets within the community that when we carry out this particular community engagement process, we get to understand the assets that within any particular community. And then there are strengths also that this community has, despite that most African communities have challenges here and there, but they have got their own strengths. And you can only understand the strengths that are in any particular community by actually building relationship with them, getting closer to them, to learn about what they're doing and to get to understand them better. It's only through this means that we get to know the strengths that are within any particular community. And for the purposes of Matsakha, we found out that the community in Matsakha has various strengths through the people of Matsakha. There are various assets through the people of Matsakha that can actually enable us as an organization to move on effectively. Then the abilities that people have that when we carry out this community engagement process, it gives us actually to get to understand the abilities that the people of Matsakha have. And then lastly, as an organization, initially, the approach we've been having, we've been just taking projects to people. But then when we sit down with the community concerned, we get to learn from them about their priorities, that the people actually come up and tell us that this is the biggest need we have within the community that you want to come in. So if it is the element of the water, they can mention the biosand water filters. If it is the rainwater catchments, they are the ones who actually tell us on how we can come in fully within the community that we were working in. The process in Matsakha, if you ask me, I can term that it was very successful because it was attended by over 100 people. And we had people from different categories that live within Matsakha. Within the people who attended this particular process, we had first the administrators who are led by the area chief. And it is important to note that on the first day when we are doing this particular community engagement process, the chief attended the process from the beginning up to the end, which is something very unusual because in most circumstances, you'll find that administrators will always attend a session, make opening remarks and leave. But this was a unique one because the chief was present from the beginning up to the end. And one thing that I'll never forget that the chief said, he commended and said that he has been in leadership for quite a number of years, but he has never had a forum whereby he has been able to meet a cross-section of representatives from the location that is leading. So the chief felt that we had done something good. It helped him also to get to understand the people that is leading. Amongst the attendants who are there were teachers who are present during this community engagement process, and their input toward this particular process was very key. We had the opinion leaders within Matsakha and other key leaders who are within Matsakha, who I'm glad to report that they found time actually to attend all the sessions that we are having within Matsakha. You know, in most circumstances, when meetings are called, the key leaders within any particular community, they may just appear there once, and then there is an assumption that if somebody is a leader, they are very busy, even for meetings like for the community engagement process. But for this time, for the process that we had in Matsakha, all these people actually played a very vital role by making sure that they are available for the entire process that the community engagement process we are doing was taking place in Matsakha. We had youth who are also present. The Department of Youth was also represented, and they played a very active role during the community engagement process in Matsakha. Apart from the youth attending the entire session of the community engagement process, I was actually challenged by a section of the youth within Matsakha who decided that instead of hiring somebody to do the catering services for the meals for the participants who are attending this particular engagement process, they decided that the youth who are present will do that particular work. And they really prepared some good meals, and it served as a team building exercise for us because these youths were actually very much involved in whatever that was going on there. The women were there. One thing that I noted out clearly, Matsakha is a community that the leadership within Matsakha has given space for women to lead, because out of the 10 village elders that come from the 10 villages within Matsakha, there was almost a half of the village elders who were women. So Matsakha is a community that identifies the role of women within any particular society. We have women who are in leadership within Matsakha, and they were well represented within the community engagement process that we did in Matsakha. There are also men who attended the entire process that we were doing in Matsakha, and the whole process went on well. The discussion was friendly, and all the participants were fully engaged throughout the entire session. And just to confirm that the engagement process that we had in Matsakha was successful, those who attended the engagement process that we had in Matsakha during the last day of the representatives who are now representing all the 10 villages and the opinion leaders who remained, so that we can lay a pathway forward for Matsakha community. They actually came up with what we call as Matsakha Community Development Committee. This Matsakha Community Development Committee is the one that is now going to spearhead the activities that we are going to do within Matsakha community. Of course, they are not going to work on their own. On the ground, we have a local NGO that Getry will be talking about, transforming community for social change. So despite that, you have the Matsakha Development Committee, but then we have also TCSC that will be working closely with the Matsakha team to make sure that the projects that we'll be implementing within Matsakha are actually moving on smoothly. So the process was very effective, and we are looking forward to moving on effectively within Matsakha. Already they indicated that amongst the priority things that they need, they indicated that we are in the dispensation of the COVID-19, and most governments are actually stressing on the basics of sanitation and hygiene, hand washing, and just making sure that the environment we are living in is clean. So they kept on making us a priority, and we're just on our path towards making sure that we engage in soap-making training for the Matsakha community as we prepare ourselves to enter fully and engage fully with the Matsakha community. Thank you. That's briefly what I can share concerning the community engagement that we had in Matsakha.
Thanks, Eric.
I pass over to Getry.
Thank you, Eric. Getry, would you mind taking a few minutes to introduce yourself to the members of the group who don't know you, and talk a little about your experience with the community engagement process?
Good day and good night to those who are coming from Africa or Kenya. My name's Getry Agizah, the Director of Transforming Community for Social Change. In short, we call it TCSC. TCSC, little background, was registered in 2011, and its major focus at that time was more to deal with issues of training in peace building and trauma healing. By the time we got to 2012 and 2014, we realized that when we talk about peace and trauma healing, we do not only talk about the open violence or direct violence. We are talking about what individuals go through when they're...
Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so sorry. This is just so embarrassing. Technology.
No worries.
Yeah, happens to us too.
I had to switch to my phone, see if I can use my phone. So, should I continue?
Please.
Please.
Okay. So I was talking about we have found ourselves working with the issues of early mortality rates. Early mortality rate, whereby find so many young children die because of some carelessness when their mothers are going to give birth, or the clinic is so far away, And so we went from being just a training in alternative to violence and trauma healing to being more inclusive on issues of girl-child rights, self-delivery, midwife training, and even education for young women. And then we also realized that even young boys are a vulnerable community. And what makes the men vulnerable is because the culture feels like men have a greater voice. So more organizations are focused on girl-child because they're treated vulnerable and ignore the boy child. And so the boy child is becoming a wanting species because it's a neglected item in the society. So we have done a lot of civic education around issues of constitution in Kenya. After having a new constitution, we have done issues around talking about election observation and even post-election intervention. Especially if most of you could, if you ever heard about the history in Kenya about the 2007-2008 election, whereby there was eruption of violence, which we couldn't explain how it came up. But then we try to look at, even after every election, we have a life. So is to do a negotiation that we receive those who are hurting and give them space to talk and feel listened to. Now about the community engagement with Friendly Water, I met Eric and we kept discussing about what is this that we can do in a community that is needy. So our point of Matsakha was because Matsakha is one area that when you look at the rivers that are there, they're very far away from each other. Actually, my perception in this was thinking that probably these people need clean water because the water, there's the river that is there, there's a sugar cane factory next to it. And a lot of waste is being thrown in this water. It's not safe for people to drink. So when we talked about it and I was sent a copy of the community survey, I thought as an organization, we feel like it's priority to engage the community so that you know what they're doing. Because if I give my voice, it will be my attitude. And I think these guys came up very strongly because after the survey and starting to do the community engagement, I saw the focus of people was not really, okay, the dirty water is a priority because they need safe cleaning water, clean drinking water. But they came on issues of their urgent need is soap because of the COVID-19 issue. And so it was engaging to talk about community engagement. And I think as a person, I learned a lot in this community engagement. As Eric was saying, we discovered people's talent. I was interested to hear there was somebody who was a rainmaker. And there are some people interested in issues of bee harvesting and all these things that were mentioned. And the most interesting thing was how a woman could say, if you talk about qualities, they say, I'm a housewife. And this kept ringing on what values are coming around are very exciting. Eric, if Eric will remember, I mean, most of the community members shared so strongly that it was the first time they get an opportunity of sharing even their concern before their area chief. So it means they're being led by an administration that doesn't, I mean, they don't get an opportunity. I remember, Kurt, there was a question on the community engagement that was talking about what made the other, and this even came to from the survey plan, what made the other groups, the other organization projects that were coming, why did they not, I mean, why are they did not finish what they're doing? And there are strong feelings of nepotism, and there are strong feelings of individuals coming and start talking to people and then they go, they never show up. And I think as a person and as a director in Transforming Community for Social Change, I'm still being haunted by this, that can we if the community is receptive and willing to move forward, then we are picking ourselves, we have exposed ourselves more vulnerably to them, that they are building their hope on us.
Mm-hmm.
And so this has really been seen when you've done several meetings. I've learned a lot with the community engagement, especially the 4Ds and how they're directing. Despite the group of these community members that were selected, I could see some people with some elderly men with even gray hair, who are very comfortable to do a light and lively, like a very, we call it a kindergarten song. You talk about head, shoulders, knees and toes, which means you have to start holding your head. As you go to your shoulder to your knees, you have to bend down, but they're flexible and doing it. And to me, so I feel like the community is geared into believing that we can do something. And when they came to discover their name, like Matsakha Development Group, they have really been connected. Today, I had a very small meeting with the two committees, production committee and marketing and procurement committee. And the interesting thing was the discussion around guided questions that I think Kurt and Wayne were discussing about, and Eric. And they will say, open a blank page. We are all learning the process.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was like interesting, because it means I cannot stick and hold. I should flow with them. In another sentiment is when I was talking about the marketing committee, what are your plans? How will you market this soap? And they said, when we have it, we learn how to do it. But people gave some interesting ideas about how this can be sustainable, because my question was more on the sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
But one key thing that I realized, that they are really willing to work and collaborate, despite one group was a production committee, another group was marketing and procurement committee. When it was come to do marketing, I heard that, the production committee was saying, you know what, if we get a marketplace, we'll just signal you people and you can sell on this place. So I'm seeing a committee that, despite being in different committees, they still want to work together to achieve the goal. So I think they have got a forum they have never had, and that's thanks to Friendly Water for supporting TCSC to bring that up. They have got a space they have never gotten to, and community also wants to do something for the community, not for individual. And so this is, there is so much excitement in the air, and they're really looking forward to when this will start. All these they're putting up and putting in place. On the Sunday at 3, the same two groups are going to meet separately to keep discussing about the strategies and look at where the easy target market, so that by the time they're training, they should be training and start up the cells of what they have produced. So I'm hoping on Sunday they'll meet. I'm not going to meet with them because I want to also just see them also doing it for themselves.
Yep.
And get to hear that. TCSC is committed. As an organization, we like keeping our friends on the reports going, and we also like accountability, like we need to be responsible and answer what is happening, why it's happening, why it did not happen. And so we feel like we will keep moving with this group to mentor them and help them. And all of us, the community, Friendly Water and TCSC, will have a smile. I was meeting with Eric and Wayne, and there was a statement in his last email to me and said, in case sustainability doesn't succeed, the program will be dead. And I said, nothing is dying. We cannot talk about dying yet. We have not even started. We need to talk about in case it doesn't go the way it will go. And the change is to change the plan is to change the change. The change is to change the plan. So we look at what didn't work and how do we learn from it so that sustainability can work best. But they're really working on this. This is a soap that it might be in the market, but it will not be as unique as the way the group is coming up. And because it's a community-driven project, it will earn a lot of trust because there's no profit to any individual. It's community work. But I'm so grateful for Friendly Water and giving us that opportunity and giving Matsakha community the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, real quick, Getry, we're also tremendously grateful to know you and know our friends at the Friends United meeting. We're TCSC, to let everybody know, is a Friends Peace Team funded by the Friends United meeting. And so we've been really blessed with the ability to move directly into an already existing organization, which is what Getry so ably leads. And not only her, but both Ezra and Peter, who work for Getry, were also able to bring a lot of ability to our 3 days of meetings. And it's being able to spread this work out, and as Getry said, everybody takes accountability, everybody has responsibility, and everybody has a job to do. And when you do that, and you're doing it in good spirit, and you're doing it appreciatively, and you're doing it openly, that's pretty much the best we can offer.
Okay, well, thank you, Getry, and thank you, Eric, and thank you, Curt. I do want to mention that we are going to have additional community engagements coming up in Bukabero in Uganda, and hopefully in Simwatachela in the near future. So we're looking forward to learning from those and making some great relationships with the people of those communities as well. I want to thank everyone for attending today. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your Friday to attend. Just a couple of announcements. One is a reminder that we have our 10-year anniversary on Friday, November the 27th. It's at 4:30 p.m. If you want to register that and haven't yet, you can go to our website. Just go to the events page on our website, and you can just scroll right down and put your name and email address in, and you'll be all set. And the other thing I wanted to mention, as I did at the beginning, is if you'll notice in your chat box, I included a link in there to the greatnonprofits.org website. So if you have an opportunity today to stop by that website, and it just takes literally just a minute or two to leave a short review of our organization so that we can get accredited for this year, that would be fantastic. We'd really appreciate that. So unless Curt or David have some other final words, we'll say
maybe
goodbye.
Before David comes in, Will?
Yes.
Yeah, there's just something I wanted to, maybe Ketra is back. And, you know, when we are doing the community engagement process in Matsakha, I think it gives us a deeper understanding of the community we're just working in. And we just found out that there are things happening in the community that we may not be aware of. But once we do this particular community engagement process, then we get to understand what is happening in the entire community. Ketra, if you're there, I just want you to share briefly about the young girl, about your Chika campaign briefly.
Oh, we approached when you're doing the, I think after the engagement, the village elders went to report to the chief about the meeting, and he in his excitement he talked about some 3 families that had Giga infestation, and I think for him, he was kind of stuck. How do I even deal with this? So I said, you know what, I have a friend who can also help with some medication if I approach him. And the friend was willing to come. So in our second home, we realized that there was one hygiene issues, and then the family, it was more of elderly man and his wife infested by jiggers, but the neighborhood kids who just came to also be washed and be treated. And among them, there's this one young girl who is 10 years old called Rhoda, who seemed to have taken quite a long time without having a bath. And so her body was, I don't know how to explain. You could think like scabies. There are rashes all over the body. So I told the volunteers we were with, can we wash her, like the whole body, clean her up, and then we take her to hospital for treatment. Rhoda was taken to hospital and was given medication, and as she couldn't talk, so we thought there was a problem with her talking or something. But the doctor confirmed that it's just a speech delay, but she's somebody in a group of kids she will be talking. But then we discovered that she has been defiled severally until the membrane, her membrane, urine membrane was cut. So there is no way Rhoda would have a break of a specialist and take her to hospital. So we took Rhoda to a specialist in a hospital called Charangani, and she was operated on a Friday. She was operated on a Friday, and they repaired the membrane, and she was discharged on Sunday. I put up a couple of friends who helped us to ensure that her bills were paid and get her clothes. And right now we are working on, the father was arrested on Monday and is still under police custody. Now the challenge that TCSC is having is one, we are working on finding a safe home for Rhoda, but also how to help the brother who is 14 years, because even the brother was a perpetrator. Now with this COVID, to arrest this young 14-year-old will be a bit tricky. Now the father will be arrested, but the brother was probably influenced by the father, because the young girl, Rhoda, is now starting to talk little by little. So at least like on Wednesday, she was able to tell the police the 3 names of people who were defiling her. So for me, I think Rhoda is one hope in a project that I love doing, because when I see change, when I see transformation, be it individual or community, I feel like I've achieved a big goal.
Thanks for sharing that, Getry.
Yeah, that is an important message. And Eric, thank you for bringing that up. David, did you want to say? I was giving you a list.
I just wanted to say blessings to you, Eric and Getry. The work sounds amazing. I was, of course, amazed and quite wondrous when, given the choice of technologies, they chose SOAP first. But knowing the COVID situation, that made so much sense. And of course, because SOAP is among our easiest technologies, it gives an entree into the entire community almost immediately. So it's fabulous that we didn't choose it, that the community did, and the community will have I'm hoping for a great success around it. And we're going to be seeing a lot of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you hopefully on November 27th at the 10th anniversary celebration, if not sooner. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.